Welcome back to Excel 2016, Module 7. This is Part 2. We will be using range names in formulas and in functions in this section of the module. So let's get back into our winter worksheet. And we are going to go back to the receipt worksheet. So we're back in our winter workbook and we are on the receipt worksheet. What we're trying to do on this particular worksheet is we want to take the data that the individual enters up here in the registration data, as well as some of the static information or information that does not change from this section, and bring it down here into a activity receipt that we will later print for the customer. So now we want to create some formulas in this receipt area that will transfer the information that was entered above. So we're going to start out on B27. And we're going to enter some formulas and we're going to look at different ways of entering them. So if I start out and I enter a formula and I say that the Guardian was entered in B9, I could type in equals B9 and it would bring in that information. Now I want you to notice that if you enter the formula by typing in the cell reference, the range name is not used in the formula. It will maintain that cell reference that you typed. We'll look at how we can fix that later. So another way that we can do it is by clicking on the cells. It's usually my preference to click because, again, that avoids me typing in the wrong cell address or the wrong range name. So I can type in equals and I can click on B10 for the address. You can see when I click on this cell, it does not bring in the cell address of B10, but rather it brings in the range name that we have assigned to that cell. So you will get range names in your formulas if you click on the cell. When you hit enter, you see that it does display the answer. And if we go up and look at the formula again in the formula bar, you see that it does in fact maintain the range name in the formula. Another way to get the range name in the formula is by beginning to type the range name itself. So if I said equals and started with a C, now at first Excel is not sure what I'm trying to type, so it brings in, if you look at this symbol that says FX, these are all built-in functions that we begin with the letter C. This symbol here indicates that it is a range name. But if I type the second letter, you can see it narrows down my search. And once I have the correct one highlighted, I can hit the tab key and it will fill it in for me. Then I'm going to hit enter to finish the formula. So again, for the telephone, if I type in equals T, E, and now it has the correct one highlighted. So those are the ways that we can enter in our formulas. So we are going to continue adding some of the other information. All right, so now that we have all the information in this column, we're going to go ahead and go over here to the registration date, and we want to be in column E25. And if we look up, the registration date, again, is one of the fields that we have entered up here. So we can type in equals RE, and it's not sure. Notice we've got a receipt discount, a receipt fee, and a registration date. So if I just type that G, it narrows it to the correct one. You always want to make sure you are selecting an option with this symbol next to it, which means it's a range name. Notice that this date fills in as a generic number. That is because of the number formatting. So let's go to our Home tab and change this to short date. And now it will display the date. Now let's continue filling in some of these formulas. So in E27, we want the actual youth's name. So if we equals YOU, there we go. There it is. Hit the tab and enter. We can also, as I said, click on sales if you don't want to use the typing approach. So for the activity, we could type equals and then scroll up a little bit and select the cell B5 by clicking on it. As long as you click and you do not type, it will pull in those range names. So we could say the grade is equal to, and click on the cell B6. And then the shirt size is equal to, and we could type this in as shirt size. There we go. And enter. Then we're going to scroll down to E33, and that has our activity fee. So we're going to type the equal sign and click on our cell up here that has the activity fee, which is E11. And now we're ready to determine if this individual is qualifying for the report discount. Now, for this function, we have to use an if statement. The first thing we have to determine is if Rockport resident is equal to the value of yes. If it is, then they are going to get this Rockport discount of 5. If it is not, then the answer would be 0. They do not get a discount. So we're going to work with a function, and we're going to make sure that we use range names within that function. So let's go ahead and go to formulas. We're going to go to logical, and we're going to choose an if statement. So you will remember that our if statement has 3 parts to it. The first part is the logical test. You can think of it as the decision or the test that determines which answer they're going to get. And in this case, that test is whether or not they are a Rockport resident. So we can determine that by saying, is cell B8, which is Rockport resident, equal to, and since this is a text field, a text answer, we need to have it in quotes. So we're going to put quote, Y-E-S, quote. So that's your first decision. Now, if the value is true, then they get this discount. So we're going to click on the Rockport discount field. And that's what's going to be displayed as our answer if Rockport residence is equal to yes. If it is not equal to yes, then we want a 0 as our value if false. Click OK, and it builds for us that if statement. And then it gives us, in this particular example, the Rockport residence field is yes, so it gives us the value of 5, and they are entitled to that discount. Now the last thing we want to do is calculate the total. And sometimes students here are tempted to use AutoSum. But in this particular example, AutoSum will not work because you have to subtract the discount, not add it. So you would have to say the formula is equal to the activity fee that's on the receipt minus the receipt discount if they qualified for the Rockport discount. And it gives us the invoice amount of $75. Now the last set of formulas that we have to work with are in this transfer area along the bottom. So down here on the bottom in our transfer area, one thing that the text doesn't do that I might do to create some documentation is underneath each box, I would probably put a field name. So this is the guardian. The second box over is going to be the telephone. The third box is the youth name. Then we want the activity, followed by the grade and the shirt size. So for documentation purposes, I would probably put some headings down there. The text does not have that. So let's go ahead and put in some formulas. And since it's easier than scrolling up and down, I'm going to use the typing approach with the field names. So we're going to say equals G for guardian, U, and it pops it up. So I can tab through that and hit enter. Then I go to the next cell, B40, and I say equals TE, and since it popped up telephone, I'm going to go ahead and tab and hit enter. Go to C40 and type in equals YO, and it popped up youth name. So I can tab and hit enter. Activity is going to be equals ACT, and it came up. Tab and enter. Equals GR, tab and enter, and then finally in F40 I will type equals SHI for shirt size and enter, tab and enter. So now we have all of the formulas in with range names except this one that we had typed in with a cell reference. Now, this could be used, what we're going to show you, in a couple of situations. If you had built a lot of these formulas and then, after the fact, decided you wanted to rename the cells, you could use this next technique to apply the range names to cells that you had, or to formulas that you had already created. In this case, we had a cell reference that we typed in, so we can use it to change that cell reference from B9 to, say, Guardian. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up here to Define Names, hit the drop-down arrow, and choose Apply Names. What you need to do next is you need to click on any of the names that you think could have cell references in them. So you can click on several. If you hold the Shift key down, it'll just select on each one you click. Okay, I'm going to unclick those, and I just want to do Guardian. Once you do that, you click OK, and notice it made the change. It changed the reference to from B9 to Guardian, and it fixed our formula for us. If we had other formulas that we had not used range names, then we could use that option to apply those names there as well. So again, you're going to click on the arrow next to Define Names, choose the Apply Names option, and then you're going to click on the field you want and click OK. Notice this time it said it couldn't find any. Now sometimes if you have a range selected when you start that, it may only look in that range. So make sure you have only one cell selected so that it will look at the entire worksheet. And that concludes this segment of our Module 7. So I'm going to go ahead and save our work. And when we come back, we're going to look at data validation and how we can ensure that proper data is being entered into our worksheets.